Great to be with you today. Hope you all had an incredible weekend. Today we're going to talk about a mindset of believing the best. You ever heard somebody say to you, "Hey, just believe the best"? And specifically, we're going to talk today about believing the best in others, or believing others' intentions are the best in the context or the situation or whatever it is might be happening in our interactions or our conversations with them. Okay, so this believe the best mindset. So I want you to first of all consider a time that maybe recently, maybe happened over the weekend, or just maybe even happened today already, where you're interacting with somebody. And for that, the first thing is you start to have this conversation and you notice like just a thought that pops into your mind, a thought around, I wonder why they're saying this, or I wonder what they're trying to do, or I wonder what's really going on here. There's these questions that start to show up for us, or oftentimes we don't even ask the questions. Oftentimes we jump to conclusions or we make assumptions. Something like, I know exactly what they're thinking, I know exactly what they're trying to do, I know exactly what's going on here. Right, we think we have an understanding or a handle on what their intentions are. So the believe the best mindset is simply to be able to say, hey, I'm going to choose a thought, I'm going to choose a belief. In this case, it's the belief that their intentions are for good. Intentions are good for me, or for our relationships, or for around relationships with others, or for the benefit of others, whatever's going on in the situation, the context, the conversation. I'm just going to choose to believe that the intentions are for the best. Okay, let me give you an example. I'm going to use an example from the workplace. Let's take a manager at an office. Let's say her name is Sarah. Okay, so Sarah is running a team meeting. So maybe it's happening like today. It's a Monday, right? So there's a Monday check-in. Everybody's sitting in the boardroom. Sarah's running this meeting, and she notices one of her team members. Let's call him Tom. So Tom is seemingly like not engaged, not paying attention, feels, I mean, to the Sarah like experiences him as kind of checked out. Okay, so this is in the middle of the meeting. Sarah's having this thought, I wonder what's going on with Tommy. I wonder why he's not engaged. I wonder why he's not paying attention. I wonder why he's not contributing to our team meeting that he usually does. And in that moment, Sarah has a choice to make. She has the choice to determine what's the thought that she's going to hold on to. What's the belief that she's going to choose? Like in that moment, is she going to jump to a conclusion or make an assumption that Tom doesn't like his job, doesn't want to be there? Is she going to make an assumption that Tom came unprepared, so that's why he's avoiding eye contact and that's why he's staying quiet? Is she making some kind of assumption that Tom isn't invested in the company, or isn't supporting the mission of their work? Or Sarah might be willing to choose a different thought or a different belief, a belief or a thought, something in the direction of, I wonder you know, what's going on with Tom. Like maybe he's tired, maybe he had a long weekend, maybe something happened over the weekend where, like with his family or his friends, maybe he's in a tough spot today. And she starts to think in that direction, right? She's starting to increase her kind of wonderment of like, what else might be going on with Tom? Like if I'm going to choose to believe the best, which is this kind of thinking, I believe that Tom loves his job. I believe that Tom is invested in the company. I believe that he wants the mission to succeed here at work. I'm going to choose to believe that Tom is not ignoring me or avoiding eye contact with me or actively choosing to not participate in this meeting or contribute to this conversation. Okay, that's a great example for Sarah to be able to say, hey, I'm just going to choose to believe the best. So then imagine this, then maybe after the meeting is over and Sarah just says, hey, Tom, you got a minute? And she kind of pulls him aside, or maybe they go find another room and just sit down. And Sarah just sits with Tom and says, hey, Tom, like I noticed you were quieter than usual in today's meeting. Or I noticed that maybe, you weren't contributing in the ways that I've seen you contribute in the past. And so I just wanted to like check in with you or just want to check up on you. Hey, you doing okay? And in that moment, right, Sarah's not just choosing to believe the best, but she's actually going a step further. Like she's choosing with curiosity and she's choosing with care to follow up with Tom, right? Give him an opportunity to be able to share with her what's going on, why he was avoiding eye contact, or why he seemed distracted, or why he was less engaged in the meeting, or maybe less attentive in the conversation. And when we can do that, man, it has a world of benefits in our relationships. So I just want to talk a little bit more about this idea of believing the best. Now, as I gave the example of that being in the workplace, think about that for those of you who are married or you're in committed relationships, you have a significant other. Think about how that might benefit your relationships, right? Rather than jumping to conclusions, rather than making assumptions, rather than just choosing judgment and criticism. What if what if you're able to believe the best? What if you're able to have intrigue and curiosity? What if you were able to slow down in your thought process that created space with patience, with grace, to be able to consider, hey, I don't actually know exactly what's going on here. And until I find out more, until I'm able to investigate, I'm just going to choose to believe the best. Think about this in our relationships with our friends, with our other family members, with our kids, right? If we could just slow down and choose to believe the best. One of the ways that we kind of frame this in clinical work is there's a model called cognitive behavioral therapy. And in cognitive behavioral therapy, there's this kind of sequence or this system that we kind of walk through, and it's simply this: situations lead to thoughts, thoughts lead to feelings, and feelings lead to behaviors. Situations lead to thoughts, thoughts lead to feelings, feelings lead to behaviors. So let's go back for an example, that story that I told you about Sarah and Tom. Right, the situation is Tom showing up to the meeting, Sarah's running the meeting, Tom's avoiding eye contact, he's not looking, he's not engaged, he's not involved, he's quiet. Right, that's the situation. Sarah Sarah has a choice to make in the thoughts. My thoughts start to just start to like fill her mind, right? The thoughts we talked about, like what's wrong with Tom, right? Like why isn't he engaged right now? What's the problem with Tom, right? Does he not care about his job? Does he not care about his team? Is he not invested in the company? Right? Those are all thoughts. And when those thoughts play out, they turn into feelings. Like Sarah could have been like frustrated. She could have been offended. She could have, felt like rejected that like Tom wouldn't even like make eye contact with her or wouldn't even like bother to participate in the conversation she was leading with the team that day. Right, like Sarah could have had all of this like emotional kind of resistance that showed up in her, and it might have played out in a behavior, right? The behavior of after jumping to a conclusion, making an assumption, having these emotions stir inside of her. right? She could have called Tom out right in the middle of that meeting. Like she could have said something that might have embarrassed him in front of his peers. She could have like called him over after the meeting and reprimanded him, for not speaking up or not participating in the meeting. She maybe would have written him up and then had it like gone to HR. Like there's all sorts of behaviors that Sarah could have taken if she had followed from the situation those patterns of thoughts, which might have led to feelings, which would have resulted in behaviors. So let's go back, right? Same situation, right? Tom is still not making eye contact. He's still not speaking up. He's still not engaged in the conversation in this Monday morning meeting in the boardroom. But Sarah could come up with some other thoughts that I already shared, right? Thoughts of like, I wonder what's going on with Tom. I wonder if he's okay. I wonder if something happened over the weekend. Maybe he's struggling. Maybe something happened, right? Those thoughts also would have led to feelings of like, again, I'm curious and I'm wondering, but it's also like I care for him and I want to make sure that he's okay. And she would have had like a different emotional experience following those thoughts, which as it played out, remember I told the story, it played out with the behavior of, hey, calling Tom over after the meeting was done and just sit with him, right? Create space for him, be curious with him, and ultimately her efforts to care for him. So when this plays out in our relationships, believe the best, right? Believe the best in others, that their intentions are for good, that their intentions are not to hurt us or attack us or to come after us. Now, it's important in the midst of that we are able to have an awareness that in this believe the best mindset, that we're going to choose that to be our premising thought. I'm going to choose to believe the best. But then we also have to be able to recognize there is a space in that framework, in that mindset, to be able to say, until I discover otherwise, until I find out that that's not the case. So what I mean by that is, in this believe the best mindset, is not just to be able to say everything's good and everything's fine and it's always fine and nothing ever bad happens and there's never any ill-intended or ill will efforts from anybody in my life. Like I'm just going to choose to believe the best all the time. Well, what we actually found is that's not helpful either, because there are times in our relationships and in our life when there are misguided intentions, when there are intentions that are hurtful. And so the way that we find balance in this, again, is our choice to say, I'm going to believe the best until I find out otherwise. I mean, think about our entire legal system is built on that idea, right? Innocent until proven guilty. Yeah, from the very beginning of our justice system, it was built on this believe the best mindset. I'm going to choose to believe that there's innocence. But then the second part of that is until proven guilty. So again, for us to be able to hold this balance, right? I'm going to choose to believe the best, right? I'm going to lean into that. I talked about situations, thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. The thought part of that, I'm going to just choose to believe the best. I'm going to play that out. But if and or when new information pops up, different experiences happen, new uh, new circumstances arise, and I discover that those intentions are not the best, then I'm going to take note of that and I'm going to respond and I'm going to act accordingly. All right, this idea of innocent until proven guilty. All right, so I want to give you just a couple kind of practical strategies before we wrap up for today. So, practical strategies to cultivate the mindset of believe the best. So, consider these strategies in your daily life. The first is simply the idea of developing awareness. Developing awareness means that you are fully aware of your interactions and your reactions when when you're in relationship or you're interacting with others. So here's what I mean by that is you're aware of the surroundings. You're kind of aware of your own thoughts, your feelings, and your behaviors. So you're going to challenge yourself to pause. You're going to challenge yourself to think of these alternative, more positive possibilities or interpretations of others' behavior. Okay, right back to situations lead to thoughts, thoughts lead to feelings, feelings lead to behaviors. You're going to challenge yourself to pause when those initial thoughts that show up, right, are negative. Those initial thoughts that show up that are drawing conclusions and making assumptions, you're going to simply pause. You're going to look for the alternative, more positive possibilities for others' behaviors. The second thing you're going to do is you're going to start building a habit. Start building a habit, this believe the best mindset. And the best way to do that is just start small and start simple. So you're going to start with uh, applying this mindset in one intentional way every day. Okay, you're just going to make the conscious choice. You're going to choose the intention every day. One interaction that you have with someone else, like when it just doesn't go well, you're going to choose a positive mindset. Let me give an example of this. It was over the weekend. I was at a store and the store was very busy and there was lots of customers and I was getting in line with other people and there was only two registers open and the lines were getting longer and longer and longer and they weren't opening up a third register or a fourth register. There was a manager who looked like he was kind of scrambling and occasionally getting on a phone. um, in the midst of that, here I am kind of waiting in line, right? That's the situation. And 2 minutes turns into 5 minutes, 5 minutes turns into 10 minutes, 10 minutes turns into 15 minutes. Like I'm still there standing in line waiting to get checked out at this store with only two lanes open. Okay, so in the midst of that, that's the situation. And I had this choice to make, like the choice of what's the thought I'm going to hold on to? Like, what am I going to choose to believe in this instance? And it actually caught me because there was a couple behind me, and they were very vocal about their thoughts and their beliefs about what was going on. They said something like, I can't believe there's only two employees in this whole store. I can't believe that manager thinks he's above opening up another register or going to jump in and help those two individuals who are frantically trying to check people out. They made a statement like doesn't anybody know what they're doing around here? They made another comment during that time, like something to the effect of these two checkers at the registers must not have any clue what they're doing. Okay, these were all thoughts or beliefs that was coming from this couple who was standing behind me in line. Right, we were waiting 15 minutes, actually turned into 20 minutes before I got up to the checker. It was like 25 minutes I had been waiting in that line. And for 10 minutes or more, I'm hearing these negative comments from the couple behind me. Right, their assumptions that they're making, conclusions that they're drawing about how the staff is ill-equipped to do their job, right? About how there's not enough people working there, how the manager is doing a terrible job, and they're making all of these judgment statements. So in that uh, kind of intense moment, I had an opportunity to practice this believe the best. In fact, I was building a habit standing there in the store that day. So I had the opportunity to be able to come up with, okay, what am I going to choose to believe? I'm going to choose to believe uh, that a couple of people called out from work today, maybe, or or maybe there's just more customers coming in today than they anticipated and were able to schedule. Or maybe that manager actually doesn't even know how to open a register, let alone run one. I was choosing to believe that that manager, that when he got on the phone, he was calling to other employees in the store, or he was calling to a back office, or he was calling somebody to be able to get the help that he needed. I was choosing to believe that those two individuals who were checking out at the registers were probably stressed and overwhelmed as they saw the lines get longer and longer and longer. So my feeling in the midst of that, even though I be honest, there was a little frustration. I had to wait 25 minutes to check out from the store, but I began to have a different experience in me, which was I started to feel understanding and empathetic towards these two cashiers, towards the manager. And then my behavior, when I actually got to the checkout, I was like purposefully, like intentionally trying to be as nice as I could and be as least amount of drama and quick as I could to get to the checkout, right? To get my stuff ready, get the barcodes flipped over, everything set, smile at them, say, hey, thanks for all you do. Hope you have a great day. I appreciate you, right? Grab my receipt, grab my stuff, and off I went. And as I was walking out the door, I heard the couple that was behind me this whole time, right? They were coming in right behind me at the register and they started to lay into that cashier. And I remember just thinking this like pit in my stomach. I'm like, right, this poor cashier, right, doing the best they can. And yet she was getting yelled at by this couple who was so frustrated, who had made these assumptions and jumped to these conclusions about what was happening at the store that day. Okay. So, this idea of building a habit every day, choosing when situations happen, particularly like the example I just shared, when situations don't go as planned or expected, or situations just don't go the way that we would like them to go, once a day. That's why we're going to start small and simple. Develop a habit where we're going to uh, put in effect, which was the first thing we talked about, developing awareness, right? Choosing to pause and to think of more positive alternatives and interpretations to others' behaviors. Okay, so the challenge for you is this week. Put it into practice. Start today, every day this week. Look for an opportunity to reframe. Look for an opportunity to, when you find yourself in a situation, find those thoughts, pause, reflect, look for the positive alternative, and then allow that to play out from your thoughts to your feelings to your behaviors. And in the midst of that, you're also going to pay attention. You're going to pay attention to new information as it arises. And then you're going to compare that information to the belief that you started with is I'm going to choose to believe the best. And when that information comes, right, you're going to be able to say, hey, is this valid? And does this support my belief to believe the best? And if it does, continue in that direction. If it doesn't, keep being curious, right? Keep being attentive to at some point this idea of, hey, if the outcomes, the behaviors are inconsistent with my belief, I need to reevaluate, to choose to believe the best. Or as I talked about in the justice system, this idea, I'm going to choose innocence until proven guilty. All right, it's great to be with you guys today. Hope this has been meaningful for you. Would love to have you share comments. You can write that right here in the live stream. If you want to reach out to us, we'd love to hear from you as well. You can do that through our coaching platform, livewell-coaching.com, or you can email us directly at coaching@livewellbehavioralhealth.com. All right, I'm signing off. Dr. Mike will be back with us on Wednesday for Wellness Wednesday, and I'll be back on Friday for our episode of Faithful Friday. Have a great day, everyone.